You're watching This Week in Louisiana Politics with Fred Childers.
Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Fred Childers. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics on your local election headquarters. Well, Governor John Bel Edwards quickly declaring a state of emergency after a tornado ripped an 11-mile path through New Orleans East Tuesday night. One person was killed, others were injured, and many homes completely wiped away. The National Weather Service is still surveying the damage, but has confirmed it was at least an EF3 storm. Edwards surveyed the damage in the air and on the ground Wednesday morning.
You know, the homeowners that I spoke to in this visit to this neighborhood, thankfully each of them did have insurance, which is a good thing. And I have every expectation that the insurance companies are going to step up and do what they're supposed to do, and without undue delay.
It's still not clear if FEMA will declare it a federal disaster. Governor Edwards says the state has to reach $7.6 million in public infrastructure damage, and he's not confident they'll meet that bar. U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy surveying the damage as well on Thursday as a cleanup effort continued. He spoke to officials about what needs to happen for Southeast Louisiana to fully recover. Homeowners in St. Bernard Parish were spotted doing what they're known for, working together to come back from a disaster.
You're watching This Week in Louisiana Politics with Fred Childers.
Good morning, I'm Fred Childers. Hope you're having a great Sunday so far. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics on your local election headquarters. Well, Governor John Bel Edwards quickly declaring a state of emergency after a tornado ripped an 11-mile path through New Orleans East Tuesday night. One person was killed, others were injured, and many homes completely wiped away. The National Weather Service still taking in data for the damage, but has confirmed it was at least an EF3 storm. Edwards surveyed the damage in the air and on the ground Wednesday morning.
You know, the homeowners that I spoke to in this visit to this neighborhood, thankfully each of them did have insurance, which is a good thing. And I have every expectation that the insurance companies are going to step up and do what they're supposed to do, and without undue delay.
It's still not clear if FEMA will declare it a federal disaster. Governor Edwards says the state has to reach $7.6 million in public infrastructure damage. He's not confident they'll meet that bar. He wasn't the only one there. U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy surveying the damage as well on Thursday as cleanup efforts continued. He spoke to officials about what needs to happen for southeast Louisiana to fully recover. Homeowners in St. Bernard Parish were spotted doing what they're known for, working together to come back from a disaster.
It's like the woman here said, oh yeah, everything I have, the generator. Somebody just came and said you need a generator. And the plywood, somebody said, can I help you put up plywood? And President McGinnis pointing out that like the spirit of community. Sam just told me that people from the Bywater came to clean up her yard.
Senator Cassidy says the impact is incredible and the damage is astonishing. Louisiana hurricane victims got a welcome surprise this week, however. The state is in line to get another $1.6 billion for hurricane recovery. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development made that announcement last week. Most of that money, nearly $1.3 billion, is going to support disaster relief from Hurricane Ida. The rest will go to recovery from Laura and Delta. And FEMA granted hundreds of people displaced by Hurricane Ida one last extension for temporary housing. FEMA extended their Transitional Sheltering Assistance Program for another 48 hours this week. Now, that program pays for hotel rooms for those who lost their homes from a storm, but it's temporary. But with it now expiring, people like Karen Cooper have to find a new place to live.
Now they're saying that it's completely at this end, and then they said that I was approved for, you know, the rental assistance, the extended rental assistance, but I haven't seen anything of that.
Roughly 900 people across the state are affected. FEMA will also start charging rent for Hurricane Laura and Delta survivors still living in agency-provided housing. This affects about 1,700 households. Hurricane Laura victims will start paying rent on April 1st, and Hurricane Delta survivors will do so May 1st. Rents may be reduced based on post-hurricane income, but everyone has to move out by October 31st. Happening this week in the legislative session, lawmakers taking another stab at insurance reform. One bill looking to tackle insurance fraud made its way past the first step this week. Now, the bill would set up a 21-member board to take on cases of fraud. State Representative Ed Larvadane of Alexandria says these cases are slipping through the cracks of the state insurance department.
That this is needed more than ever. Why? Because fraud is occurring. I want to make sure that we keep insurance companies viable, and I want to make sure we have a diverse group of insurance companies that can provide justice.
The commission would be able to refer cases to state police for investigation and possibly file criminal charges. Even with COVID protocols rolling back, lawmakers at the Capitol are making a push to undo vaccine mandates. Political reporter Shannon Hecht breaks down one bill that stalled in committee.
There's been a lot of controversy over requiring vaccination status to be presented in order to let someone into your business or entity. In the bill, Representative Larry Bagley would make it a crime to do so. The bill would create a $1,000 fine for anyone who asks someone for their COVID-19 vaccination status in order to allow them into their business. Representative Bagley, who said he did get 2 shots, says it limits people who choose not to get vaccinated.
I don't believe anybody has the right to put a needle in my arm and put medicine in there if I don't want it.
Right away, members had a problem with the bill, even after it was amended to remove jail time as a punishment. Despite how they feel about vaccines, they found an issue with forcing businesses to be subject to a crime.
I don't want to impose any of our laws on a private business owner if they want to put up a sign that say you have to be vaccinated to come into their facility.
Many of the members of the House Criminal Justice Committee say that they're against vaccine mandates, but feel this bill is not the best way to go about undoing or preventing them.
The appropriate way to do this would be to prohibit the government or any governmental entity from enforcing these kind of things.
Lawmakers also pointed out that the language of the bill would make it a crime to simply inquire about if someone is vaccinated, which they say is not discrimination. After only short debate between the representatives, Bagley decided to voluntarily defer his bill to work on it to potentially bring it back another day. At the Capitol for your local election headquarters, I'm Shannon Hecht.
And we'll let you know if that bill comes back. A bill looking to reduce suicide rates in veterans is moving through the legislature. The bill would allow veterans to turn their guns into firearms dealers if they feel their safety is in jeopardy. There would be a contract determining how long the dealers hold on to those guns.
So we're trying to create a situation where they would want to give it up, and we're trying to avoid any sort of, I think, confrontation where the dealer needs to feel like he needs to intervene.
If the dealer legally returns the gun, they would not be responsible if something bad happened afterwards. On the steps of the state capitol, a local women's organization called the Young Women Christian Academy gathered, supporting bills they believe will move women forward. Some of the bills include House Bill 90, authored by Representative Denise Marcel, which would create a division for women in the Louisiana Department of Health, along with a bill that creates a court dedicated to domestic violence cases.
We need judges who are educated, who can speak to the issue, who's used to seeing those types of cases.
The Office of Women's Health, it would have a focus on women issues, whether that's the mortality rates, obesity.
Marcel says the women's health bill is now on the House floor and the domestic violence bill should be in committee coming up this week. And coming up, the Senate committee tasked with finding out what happened in the death of Ronald Green while in state police custody met once again. We'll have the latest. And one lawmaker wants New Orleans traffic cams to go away. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. A special legislative committee is the latest to press state police on how Ronald Green died in their custody. Green is the black man who died in 2019 outside of Monroe, sparking national outrage. Some say there are signs of a possible cover-up there. A member of state police says 3 top leaders, including former Superintendent Kevin Reeves, turned in their devices to be wiped clean in 2020. Rachel Riley has the story.
A special legislative committee is now asking questions to state police about how Ronald Green died in their custody and the possible cover-up. State police staffer Treat Lee says 3 top leaders of LSP, including former Superintendent Kevin Reeves, turned in their devices to be wiped clean in 2020.
So we had 3 perfectly fine phones, okay, that they just said we want to turn them in.
That's correct.
A day before the committee meeting, Lee was called to surrender the devices as a part of an internal investigation.
My captain called me, go get all the device and give it to IA.
State Police Superintendent Colonel Lamar Davis says he asked for an investigation of their phones, but Internal Affairs picked them up just yesterday for their investigation.
That was not under my instruction. They have a certain course. My instructions to them were to, 1, investigate this matter.
Frustration and confusion is high among the lawmakers.
I think everybody can acknowledge there's something going on in state police that's rotten. And when you have the shades drawn in and it's closed up, that thing festers and it stinks and it gets worse and worse and worse. Hearing that y'all want to be the sunshine, but what I'm seeing is you're closing the shades.
Retired State Police Detective Albert Paxton says Corey York and John Clary, who were troopers working on the scenes where Green died, should be prosecuted. Paxton says he was told by Clary that he was not wearing a body camera that night.
The current administration didn't want to do anything to Clary. I think that's very suspicious.
This is Rachel Riley reporting. New Orleans drivers, State Representative Paul Hollis filed 2 bills to keep traffic cameras in the rearview mirror. He wants to get rid of them, calling it an added unnecessary expense. Hollis says the cost of a ticket is more than a first offense for possession of marijuana.
You don't actually have a ton of them on the North Shore. So are you focusing more on these bigger cities where people are getting these fines, or what kind of gave you the idea for this?
You know, fortunately, on the North Shore, our parish council, no local government has ever agreed to resort to having these.
House Bill 85 is still awaiting consideration in committee. A man has been found guilty on nearly 20 counts of wire fraud and money laundering after stealing more than $1 million in financial aid. The U.S. Attorney's Office says Elliot Sterling filled out paperwork on behalf of unknowing Baton Rouge Community College students. Trial evidence shows Sterling received about $1.4 million in student loans and grants connected to nearly 200 BRCC students. All of that money went to his personal and business bank accounts. Most of those students weren't even aware they had signed up for loans, each count carrying a hefty jail time. Sterling could spend the rest of his life behind bars. Baton Rouge leaders are working to end violence affecting our kids after 7-year-old Markeith Franklin was shot and killed in Scotlandville this past weekend. But those leaders say police can't do everything. Anam Siddiqui has the story.
The latest young victim of gun violence is 17-year-old Markeith Franklin. He was shot and killed in Scotlandville over the weekend. Franklin is the 3rd teen in a month to die from gun violence in the Baton Rouge area. Scotlandville residents say they don't even recognize the neighborhood they call home.
Like they forgot about us. These are the kids out here don't have nothing.
James Roach grew up in the area and is raising 3 children. He says his home has been neglected. His daughter, Brianna Grant, says the community lacks the opportunities she had growing up.
Wanted to blame the children for their lack of resources or their lack of knowledge of what's going on or how to behave or how to, be their best selves. No, we need to take some accountability and use these resources wisely.
East Baton Rouge District Attorney Hiller Moore says kids' involvement in violent crimes has spiked over the last 2 years.
Frustrating to see children, young people being killed.
But he says preventing children from making the wrong decisions begins with teaching kids young.
Proper foundation of education in order to survive, to not pick up a gun, to make good, rational decisions.
Roach says as a father, he knows children in his community are lacking guidance, and if they can't get it at home, he's asking the city to step up.
You can't hide the truth from them about what's going on out here, but you can show them how to make things better.
Whatever the child sees in his home or his neighborhood, that's acceptable, and that's what that child does.
That was Anam Siddiqui reporting. District Attorney Moore says he is also concerned about how the juvenile court system is handling cases for the defendants and victims. He says the system is not equipped to handle the recent spike in violent crime. New Orleans also taking steps to curb youth crime. City leaders gathered at Frederick Douglass High School in an effort to deliver solutions. The roundtable included several city councilmen, community leaders, and the police. But one educator says another important group of voices must also be heard in order to understand the young people.
We have to listen to the babies. We have to listen to their voices and their concerns. If we think we know everything, then we're missing out.
Coming up, the Senate Judiciary spent the week on Capitol Hill questioning President Biden's Supreme Court nominee. Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana sits on that committee. You'll hear from him next.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. Southern University Law Center students may soon be witnesses to history. 50 law students made their way to D.C. to celebrate the nomination of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court. She could be the first black woman appointed to the High Court and an inspiration to those students who went to D.C. to support her.
I've never thought that big. So, like, literally to see someone who looks like me, oh my God, it's like, it's overwhelming. Like, I'm emotional thinking about it too. It's like, I want to do that. I want to be her.
All right, we'll continue this coverage. Louisiana Senator John Kennedy sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee, which held those confirmation hearings for Supreme Court Justice nominee this week. You may have seen some committee members questioning nominee Jackson about various issues. Kennedy says he's focusing on the court's role in upholding the Constitution as the founders intended.
Judicial power is important. So is judicial restraint. I believe that the appropriate role of the federal judiciary is the following. Federal judges don't make law. They don't tell us what the law ought to be. They tell us what the law is.
Kennedy focused his opening statements, there you saw, on the role of a Supreme Court justice. But as hearings continue, he questioned Jackson about her beliefs on abortion and expanding the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, Louisiana's only Democratic congressman is urging Senator Kennedy to support the nominee. In the letter you see there, Representative Troy Carter says, quote, her judicial record demonstrates that of a thorough and thoughtful jurist who is committed to fairness and justice. In short, Judge Jackson is more than qualified for this role. The Senate Judiciary Committee could vote on her nomination early next month with a full Senate vote shortly after that. Vice President Kamala Harris visited Louisiana and talked about the need for high-speed internet connectivity. She used the students of St. Landry Parish to make her point. Neil Zarang spoke to the one student who met with the vice president and asked her about that experience.
Ladies and gentlemen, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris.
Josie, thank you for that introduction. She and I were speaking backstage. I have to tell you, I just love it when we see and have our young leaders participate.
Parents and young children across Louisiana learned how important high-speed internet is during the pandemic, especially the 13,000 students in St. Landry Parish, where 1 in 3 households are without broadband connection and attempted remote learning. Josie Lamel from Eunice was one of them.
We only did it for 1 month because it didn't really work. Like, everybody was getting kicked out, everybody was getting logged out. You would email your teacher and be like, hey, I just got kicked out, and she'd be like, okay, that's fine, that's happening to everybody.
That's why she was selected to write a speech and present it to the nation. And did I mention she was only given 2 days' notice? Thankfully, a special someone calmed her nerves.
She walked in, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but she was like, you got it. She was like, if you were the only one on the Titanic, would you be worried about what you look like or what you were about to say? And I was like, no, I'd just be telling them, like, we're about to hit something. She was like, exactly, so just go out there and tell your experience.
Josie's community of St. Landry Parish is one of 13 across the country, splitting over $200 million for rural broadband access. $30 million will go toward connecting 22,000 of her neighbors to fiber optic internet.
With high-speed internet, we connect folks to opportunity. We connect folks with the ability to improve their lives.
Other states are getting it too, and she chose Sunset, and she came to St. Landry Parish, so we're very thankful for that. I just love her so much. She's so nice. I love her.
That was Neil Zarang reporting. Up next, we'll have a look at the week ahead on your local election headquarters. Stay with us.
This is your local election headquarters.
All right, looking ahead to the coming week, State Representative Rick Edmonds is speaking at the Baton Rouge Press Club. On Monday, he's expected to talk about his bill to rehire retired teachers to help with the ongoing teacher shortage. The House Appropriations and the Senate Finance Committees are also set to meet tomorrow. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics. I'm Fred Childers. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you next Sunday right here on your local election headquarters.